Hello, everybody. Welcome to a fireside chat that I never thought we'd ever have. Jurie and Pippa Moolman.
Hi, Graham.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Okay, I just want to make sure that it doesn't actually look like we're. Are we on? Are we good? Yeah, we are. There we go. Just making sure that we're all good on YouTube. We are good. Well, guys, this is super exciting. So the owners, the creators of Juma Game Reserve, Jurie and Pippa, agreed to join me for this fireside chat. Some of the people, both privately and on the last chat, said, "Well, what about Jurie and Pippa?" And I wasn't actually very hopeful, but I'm super glad. As many of you know, we launched Africa August of 1998, 27 years ago almost, and we become really good friends. Jurie and I, we speak for hours every as we walk around. I walk around, and we become really good friends. And we've had a hell of a journey, and so this fireside chat is really about talking about that journey and how we started. But before we get to how I got involved with the Moolmans, it'd be great to hear from Jurie and Pippa the sort of the story of Juma and how that all came about.
Wow, that's a long story. But in terms of Juma, we, as an artist and a biologist, I'd inherited the land from my father. And we then became the custodians in the late 80s. And by 93, we decided to go commercial. And we had an old family lodge called Bush Lodge. And we started there really, to be very honest, not knowing at all what we were doing. And thankfully, it wasn't a very competitive time because it was the early 90s.
Yeah, I'd done, I think, one camping trip, which was only because we managed to put a double bed in the back of a Land Cruiser. And yeah, I wasn't keen. I thought we'd be here with guests on weekends, and I'd be in Johannesburg with my friends and family during the week. But it didn't actually work out that way. And before long, I was still running into the bush every time I saw a snake or an insect got stuck in my hair, or it was really, really difficult in the beginning. But we gave ourselves 3 years, and we said, if it's a dismal failure, we'll quit. So we started off with 4 staff members, and we had 8 beds to start, one rickety old Land Cruiser that was driven up from Johannesburg at 50 k's an hour by a good friend, Mark Napier. And other friends came and helped us make our first brochure. Vilma, I think you're watching. You were one of the stylists on the photo. We dragged all our friends into and yeah, we started basically from nothing and thought, let's just give it a go. If it's a failure, we're not letting too many people down. But it was a success very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, Juma is a special place, and quickly people started to realize, we've always known, I was a kid here as well, and always known it's a special place. And it's always been a place that it belongs to so many people. So many different people have different experiences here. And so over the years, we started with Bush Lodge. We made it a bit bigger. We then started a self-catering called Gallagher on our neighbor's property. And, and it's a long history, but it's we were a small lodge. We needed exposure beyond what we were capable of doing. And along came this man with a crazy idea in 98, who was rebuffed by my more illustrious neighbors. And we were crazy enough to actually listen to this
luckily,
guy.
D is at the top of the alphabet, because as he was working down all the lodges in the Sabi Sands,
everybody said no. Eh? I mean, every single person.
Well, no, and we were probably
lodge. Nobody They thought I was crazy. And they said, what are you talking about? What do you mean you want to come here and put a camera on our waterhole? What do you...
And we thought, yay, this is going to be such fun. It will stop us getting bored.
I remember that first meeting when we came in, Paul Clifford, who started African with me, and we came and met you when you still had a house in Johannesburg, and and I think Rebecca had just been born, and I know Joshua had just been born.
Exactly, they're
a couple of months apart, and there you were with the girls, and we sat out and we had a cup of coffee, and we spoke about it, and you guys were just so relaxed and so different to all the other lodge operators, and you were just willing to do some crazy stuff, and that was just the beginning.
Were you suspicious, Graham?
I was desperate at that stage, Pippa. Obviously we didn't even know if this idea of a nature cam would work. I mean, it at that stage, where the idea came from, as you may remember, is that there was the amazing fish cam, which was just somebody had put a camera looking at their fish tank, and it had gotten so popular. I thought, well, come on, looking at a fish tank, compare that to a waterhole in Africa, that's got to be better. But we didn't think it would be anywhere near as popular as it ended up being. So if you had said no, in all honesty, I don't think we would have carried on, because you can't get that amount of rejection when you don't know that it's going to work to begin with. So it was you pretty much held that little flame in your hands and could have easily blown it out.
Well, there was never been a regret. It's been an amazing journey, and I think that that's kind of the essence of Juma. It is a place where people find various types of expression, whether it is crazy technical ideas in the early days of the internet and that, through to people falling in love here, people coming back here for remembrance.
Having their ashes spread here.
The ashes spread. So many of the dedicated Zoomies on the camera over the years have sent their ashes. And some of them have never even been here. But it really is a place that crawls into people's hearts. And we're ultimately the custodians of this piece of land for now. And it'll change as it has before. But the land is eternal. We all write our stories on this canvas of Juma.
That's beautiful, and it's so true. It is. I would say it's the land, but it's also the animals, and obviously they come and go like the people. But I think what's really special about Juma, and it's hard to imagine this now, but 27 years ago, people didn't really think about individual animals. They would talk about going out and seeing the big five. I want to see a leopard. Nowadays, and I think Juma played a really big role in this, is that people got the opportunity to follow the individual animals. Instead of only coming for 3 days or even a week, where all you're going to do is kind of tick boxes of seeing things, because people were able to follow with that cam, and then later with the game drives, the safaris with Wild Earth, they were able to follow the lives of animals. And I think Juma and the animals on Juma have a lot to do with having made that change. And that change isn't limited only to Wild Earth and to Juma. It extends now through all sorts of different wildlife programming and lodges around the world. So it's another thing that you can take credit for.
Well, yeah, and you too. I think that, as I say, it is a place where things are, Pippa's a gardener. We allow things to grow, ideas, or plants, and so it's been a fascinating journey. As you say, it's become a much more intimate experience. I've lamented, even though we were making our business from it, but the concept of the big five is really a bit of an empty misnomer, because there's so much more. And even within the big five, as many of the people, I guess, watching right now, no, it's not a leopard or the leopard, but it is Karula or Safari's offspring, or there's not just an individual animal now, but who the mother was, who possibly the father was,
or the grandparents in some cases.
And exactly. I think it's those type of legacies that takes the wildlife experience to a level that really was only experienced before with intensive studies like Jane Goodall and such, where you got insight into the huge efforts you put into, say, finding the different chimp families and following them and observing them. Whereas here we have huge amounts of people out there. If I see a leopard or the leopard or Juma, I'm careful as to identifying whom it is, because I know that many of the people in our audience know way better than me as to which leopard, its ancestry, and I find that truly amazing.
Yeah,
that is
absolutely.
It's heartwarming that people have such a deep interest in
Yeah, that is, and it really is an amazing story. Actually, it's been a true privilege to have the opportunity to be a part of that, and just to witness it, actually. And I mean, we always tend to remember the most recent times, but I remember so many stories from years ago when we were just starting this, long before social networks. And if you remember the BOMA on African, which still exists today as a message board, the incredible community that built up, and the chat room. I mean, do you remember the people that used to come and and I mean, it was always about bringing people together as much as it was about watching animals. And
I must remind you, remember that night we were on chat, it was quite late, and there was a zebra kill, a lion tried to kill zebra nearby, and we had the old days with the trailer behind, with the camera on the trailer. And Jurie was already sleeping. You were chatting in Joburg. I was here in the bush. And I said, Graham, should I wake Jurie up and tell him to move the trailer? And he said, yeah, go for it. And everyone in the chat was saying, yeah, send Jurie out. We want it, I woke Jurie up, sent him out. And then in those days, it wasn't a vehicle. You had to drive, get off, set everything up on the trailer, crawl back into the vehicle. Now it's nighttime, lions are eating. And remember, the camera went dead, and the two of us thought, oh, I wonder if Jurie's still alive.
It was amazing because Jurie had to, he was around, he had to drive and then move the other one. Oh, it can't be baboons at this time of the night.
No.
Sure.
No, there's probably some creature walked by.
Don't worry, we've got a friend armed with biltong to try keep the dogs quiet.
But it was, and then Jurie would have to drive his vehicle and then drive the other one and then across the vehicles because he couldn't get he couldn't step down onto the ground. Amazing story.
And then the lions dragged the zebra out of frame. So we'd go on the radio and say, Jurie, because he couldn't see what he was filming, we'd say, Jurie, could you just move the car a little bit further to the left because we lost him. He arrived home not very impressed and went straight to bed.
I also remember
what we do for live broadcasting. Broadcasting. What we are in our 27th year of doing this?
27th year. It's amazing. And always something new, always something old that looks new that you can't figure out. I mean, just this morning, and apologies for everybody on the Juma cam, just this morning, we had this craziest problem where the audio suddenly, after, since Jurie very kindly put the cam back in, I've been helping to keep it running. And suddenly the audio's got like a Morse code, and and I couldn't figure out what it was, and so this shouldn't be a problem, and it was fine yesterday, but now it's not, and so it took ages to figure out how to solve that, but we did eventually. I want to say on behalf of everybody out there, Jurie and Pippa, thank you very much for bringing the Juma cam back. I know how important that is to so many people. So, on behalf of all the viewers out there, thank you.
We missed it as well.
Absolutely.
And the first drive in real life we did when the camera had been switched off, we sat under the tree and we spoke really loudly, and we thought, this is the first time in I don't know how many years we've been able to go past the cam. I had my feet on the dashboard, and we thought it's the first time we can do this without being watched or heard.
But we obviously missed being watched or heard because
we missed it so much. We just had to get the camera.
On a related note, and a lot of people have asked this question, and it'd be good, Jurie, to get your sort of, in the inverted commas, official sort of view on this. Obviously, the decision to not renew Wild Earth's lease is something that not everybody understands, and I think it'd be very interesting and important to hear your views on why you wanted to reduce the impact and how that really plays into the long-term view with Juma.
Yes, look, it's one of those things which there's a long, complicated answer, but I think it's important to note that as previously stated, we've been in a general process of reducing the impact. We started this many years ago with self-catering, and we've been downsizing. It culminated after COVID and us deciding to actually close the lodges altogether. And I think just at a quick aside, this is that a long-term dream and vision and ambition of especially myself and Graham has been that eventually we would have a nature reserve where there was no human impact, or human impact was down to the very bare minimum, and that lots and lots of people got to share into it, but didn't need to leave a footprint. Now, for many reasons, that quite didn't work out that way. We, at a time, almost achieved that during the Nat Geo years, which ended in 2019, and that is just because they had very large budgets, which meant that we could concentrate more on that and less on tourism. Things changed, COVID came along, and so forth. But the greater principle of reducing human impact has continued, not just with the lodges. There's a set amount of vehicles that we allow on this land, and obviously Wild Earth was some of those. And as I say, not having been able to achieve just live broadcasting and no tourism, unfortunately meant that the footprint with people staying permanently running the cameras meant that I had a head count that I wanted to decrease, but we were unable to decrease it. And so in the end, I decided the greater principle of reducing impact was more important than renewing the contract. And so it was with great sadness that we said goodbye to the safaris that the live safaris that Wild Earth ran here for so many years and versions of before. But all things considered and the greater plan in mind, it was and is the right thing to do. Also, not only as we all now very aware of how the world changes and how quickly the world changed and can change, and COVID came along and such. Another thing that has impacted us here in the Sabi Sand and in the Greater Kruger National Park enormously over the last few years has been the rhino poaching onslaught. And whilst, and I'm touching wood now, but whilst we've largely got it under control in the Greater Kruger National Park, and thankfully Juma has been spared much of it, most of it, it has been expensive. And so to that end, the least impact on Juma would be to run these 6 expeditions per year, keep it to a particular season of the year, um, and achieve an income level that I was unable to achieve with the enormous headcount that I had on this property. So sorry, in a long way an answer, but as I say, yeah, many things are nuanced, many things are complicated, and I have a reputation of trying to set out the nuances and complications.
I think just to clarify that
My wife
a bit more. I mean, what I think a lot of people don't appreciate is that there is that there is a fixed amount of vehicles that are impacting on the land, but then there's a whole accommodation component to it as well. And that was the impact that you're trying to reduce, is the huge number of people that are living on the property, which is something that you said to me right in the beginning was what you wanted to do, was to reduce the number of physical people on Juma and maximize the number of virtual people on Juma, which you are doing and have done. Well done.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah.
So moving on quickly to Tombetta, which is the location, of these 6 expeditions that you guys are doing. Pip, tell us a little bit about Tombetta. How did that come about, and what is Tombetta?
Well, Tombetta is a lovely little place, not far from Vuetela and the dam. It's actually Jurie's sister Inga's house, and she very kindly, when she's not here, allowed us to refurb it and kind of transition it into a commercial lodge, which we ran for, not even a year. People loved it. Only sleeps 6 people. We've got a waterhole right in front of it's a house, which I'll get to that later, but there's a little waterhole in front, and we also built an underground hide, which has got a lovely big couch in it, and you can get internet down there, so you can stay in touch with your people while you're hiding out underground watching the animals. And so it's a 3-bedroom, 3 ensuite rooms with a main building. And you'll see from, if you guys are lucky enough to secure a place and come on safari here, we've named the 3 rooms after some of our legend leopards. So the main room is safari, named after good old safari leopard, our one-eye matriarch from many, many years ago. That room's slightly bigger. It's got a bath, tub, also with shower, indoor and outdoor showers, and a private stoep patio outside. Then our next room is situated on the other side of the sort of building house complex, and that's called Karula, also with a little stoep and beautiful view into the bush. And the birding in that camp is incredible. Absolutely beautiful. And then we've got the Hasana room, which is in the middle of the house, also with its own little separate entrance, also en suite, sort of closest to the main building itself, but being only 6 people, it's not a crisis. And the whole all buildings are air conditioned, they're fans. We've got a fabulous cook, Elizabeth, who has been part of the Juma family forever. Her father Philemon, which you might remember or have heard of, Philemon's Dip, he worked here at Juma for 42 years, and then his daughters are still working here, which is just amazing. And 2 of the daughters, Elizabeth and Nellis, helped me cook in the early days. And Elizabeth, she's now a proper chef. I'm just like can throw half a meal together, but she'll be looking after everybody food-wise. Her and I have started a nice menu to keep all our guests happy. And we're just looking so forward to it. It's a lot of fun. It's daunting thinking, oh, can we do this? But I mean, we did do it for 25 years.
Yeah.
And, Graham, if I need to pull you in with your magnetic personality,
My magnetic personality. I don't know about that. But now, Pip, I'm watching the clock here, and what I want to do is I want to make sure that we try to get the bookings form open in 5 minutes time. So what we're going to do is it's going to turn on exactly at 5 minutes. And what we'll do is we'll just so that everyone understands how this is going to happen. You got to go to Juma.com Expeditions page, and go down to the bottom. You'll see there's a countdown. That countdown in 5 minutes is going to change into a form. We're going to operate on a first come first serve basis. It's the only fair way to do this, and it just means that what you've got to do is you've got to put your email address and your name in, and then choose your first choice and your second choice. And what you're choosing is which expedition, so which dates you're going to go on, and then which room you want to book. And you've got to book per room. So if you're sharing, then you've got to have already somebody to share with. We're not going to try and match people up. That's not going to work. So you've got to book a room, either sharing or single. Obviously up to you entirely. And then what we'll do is we'll go through that, and we'll allocate the spaces on a first come first serve basis. If by some chance your first and second choice is gone, but there is a space available on another expedition, we will give you that chance before we go to outside of the people who've done the list. So everyone gets their first and second choice until it's not available, and then those people that didn't get their first or second choice get a third choice. We'll give you an opportunity to, and you can say yes or no. And that's it, really. I guess it's that's the story. But before we do that, and in our last few minutes, we'd love to answer some questions. So I'm not going to really be able to read back. I'll try and read back a little bit, but if anybody's got any questions for Jurie or Pippa, just go ahead and put them in the chat on YouTube. Sorry, we can't monitor Facebook and YouTube. It's just too much. I'm an old man. Questions, then,
on that option, quickly, I just also want to thank you, Graham. We've come a very, very long way. And when we decided to do these limited expeditions,
and the camera, and the damn cam.
The first person I had to call is when I wanted to put in the damn cam had to be Graham. It could be nobody else. It goes without saying. But in terms of the expeditions, we needed Graham's insight into doing this, and so whilst we've experienced veterans at running lodges and all of that, we needed Graham to help put this all together. And thank you, Graham.
Pleasure. Thank you very much, Jurie. It's an absolute pleasure, as you know. I mean, I would whatever. I mean, I'm always available to help out with these things anytime, and it's an honor and a privilege to be able to help you guys. And if anybody should be grateful for anything, it's me. I mean, you've made what I've managed to achieve here, what would not have been possible without you, without a doubt. I mean, not at all. Okay, let's get to this. Okay, that's interesting. Norm Farrington, Jurie and Pippa, could you comment on how quarantine was originally used?
Yes. Up until the 70s, from about the 50s, there were what turned out to be doomed and failed attempts to keep cattle here. And so quarantine was literally that. Because of the foot and mouth disease, if you wanted to sell your cattle, you needed to quarantine them. And it was a little bit of an ad hoc situation. So still around quarantine, many of the big trees still have wire in them. We've done our best to remove it all. But anybody who has a passing knowledge of Juma knows there's a lot of creatures here that like to eat cows. And so it was a doomed...
And tsetse fly and malaria and...
it was a doomed experiment in cattle farming.
Interesting.
And so over the years it stayed open, and so we have kind of artificially kept it open just because it is part of our general firebreak around the camp.
I love quarantine. Okay, another one. This one I'm guessing is probably for Pippa, but you never know. What is the pink tree or vine that's blooming now in camp?
Okay, this question was asked by friends of mine who's staying at Gallagher right now, Russ and Moriarty. And I said, there's no way there's a pink tree in camp. Anyway, so I went down and had a look this very afternoon. And between room number 1 and 2 is actually a bougainvillea that has climbed up into the trees. And as much as I love a bougainvillea for various reasons, I cannot abide them climbing into trees. I will have to decide whether it's going to get cut down or not. But it is very pretty. It is very pretty. It is very pretty.
We'll do one more, and this one is, I'd like to hear how Juma became a reserve in the first place. Could you say a few words about that?
Yeah, I guess sort of a quick oversight would be is that these used to be hunting farms, sort of the middle of the previous century after the Second World War, and that a group of owners that were essentially the ancestors or the previous generation to many of my illustrious neighbors, such as the Barties and the Rattrays and such, decided to consolidate this into a private reserve, which is called the Sabi-Sand-Wildtuin. It was fenced off from the Kruger Park, but it slowly changed. It had hunting until the end of the 80s, but it slowly started to change from a hunting reserve to a safari reserve. And so by the 90s, there was no more hunting, and it was literally what we know today, with my very famous neighbors, such a Mala Sangita and ourselves. And then also during the 90s, of course, the fences between ourselves and the Kruger Park came down and became part of the great Kruger National Park.
Well, excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, the booking form is open. Please, those of you who are wanting to come and to see one of the most beautiful places in the world, and to do so at what I must say, by the way, I didn't mention it earlier, but super well done on the pricing. I really do think that you guys you've been really quite generous. I mean, there's no doubt you probably could have charged quite a lot more, and I think it's really well priced, and it's a great product. I know it's a great product. But please go to the form, Juma.com Expeditions, fill it in, and I hope you get a chance to go to this amazing place that I've had the privilege of spending so many times, so many trips there over my lifetime. And also what I'd like to do is a big thank you to Jurie and Pippa, not only for doing this fireside chat, not only for bringing the Juma Cam back, not only for the last 27 years of sharing your piece of paradise with the world, but also for being amazing friends and for really giving me the opportunity to follow some of the craziest thoughts I've ever had. And always listening to, no matter how mad it sounds, you'll always listen to it. Thank you very much.
And I can confirm that he has not stopped with his mad thoughts.
They come weekly. They come weekly.
Yeah. Sometimes to Pippa's chagrin, Graham and I am on the phone for hours.
Long may it last. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us. And